Greetings, and welcome to episode 30 of Ending the Sexual Dark Age. I'm JV Altheros, and once again this time we're reaching into the mailbag. Originally this episode was going to be Swinging Part 2, but we had a scheduling conflict with the interview. Never fear, we'll be getting together with Ginger and Cooper over the next couple of weeks, and Swinging Part 2 is coming right up. That just gives me a chance to respond to a few listener questions and comments that I've been sitting on for a little longer than I'd like. On that note, the mailbag is pretty close to empty at the moment, so if there's something you sent in that hasn't gotten a response, drop me an email to let me know. I do my best to be diligent, but I must admit that occasionally I have my head up my ass. So, with no further ado, a new mom writes, I am a recent adoptive mom, and I am having serious trouble reconciling my new role with my old sex life. I find myself viewing sex with my husband even more so as a duty, and I am reluctant to ask for anything in bed, although I must admit to being reticent to do so before. My muse has packed up and left town. I read erotica as a hobby. I can't even masturbate. Who can concentrate with a baby monitor nearby? And I'm beginning to think that orgasms are a thing of the past. Is this normal, and if so, what can I do? Am I doomed to boring sex for the next 18 years? I would talk to my husband about it, but he doesn't see a problem at all, and talking to him about sex always leads to an argument. I'd always heard that kids kill your sex life, but I didn't believe it, until now. Help. Signed, a new mom. In the name of full disclosure, I don't personally have any kids. I have, however, spent a notable portion of my adult life as a motherfucker. There's no doubt that a new baby, especially your first, throws your entire life into chaos. A simple trip to the corner store involves an extra 30 minutes of baby wrangling. Add in exhaustion and the emotional stress of learning how to care for a baby, and you've got a perfect recipe for a vanishing sex drive. Eventually, you'll settle into a new version of normal with you as a mom, and that's when you start figuring out how to get laid while you're a parent. One thing to keep in mind is that you'll be relearning how to do everything in life, from taking vacations to running up to the store. The good news is that orgasms are not a thing of the past. You just can't find them right now underneath the pile of diaper bags and baby monitors. Step 1 is to get yourself some mommy time, if possible every day. Try making a deal with your husband that in the evening you can each trade off taking full responsibility for the baby for a half hour or an hour so the other can have a little bit of downtime and room to breathe. It's important for both of you, even if it's not something that you can do every single day. You're a mother now, but you're still a woman too, and you have every right to a happy pussy. Maybe use your mommy time to shut the bathroom door and take a bath while there's no baby monitor and no risk of other distractions. Take some music in there with you to cover any stray sounds from outside, and use that time to reconnect with your pussy. I promise, it misses you. If your husband doesn't see a problem, it just means he doesn't see a problem for himself. If you're still putting out, only due to a sense of obligation, then he's still getting taken care of and you obviously aren't. You need to reframe the issue. Guys are notoriously easy to please. That makes it hard for us to wrap our heads around all the complicated inner workings of female sexuality. I dare say it's impossible to understand without actually putting some intentional effort into breaking the code. And it sure as hell doesn't happen by accident. You have to be able to discuss sex openly with your husband in order to fix and then improve your sex life. I know it can be difficult, but the past episodes of this show are here to help you. If he's willing, pick out a couple of your favorites, then talk about them afterwards. If you only talk about sex to discuss problems with sex, it puts you off the conversation altogether. Start working towards more sex-positive dialogue in everyday life, and it will be easier to talk about the problems. The direct approach would be to sit him down and say, look, I'm stressed to the gills, and it's affecting my sex drive. I need you to help take some pressure off, or it's going to end up affecting how often you get laid. Make sure you frame it as a request for help. You're both learning how to be parents, and over the next 18 years, there's going to be a lot of give and take when it comes to parenting responsibilities, so it's a good skill to develop early anyway. Saying, I want to give you more pussy instead of less, and this is how we make that happen, is a problem any guy can wrap his head around. Understanding all the complex psychological undertones, well, one step at a time. Guys aren't programmed to look for subtle behavioral clues the way women are. And there are a lot of unsatisfied women who've got men that literally don't realize there's a problem. On behalf of our new mom, I'm putting out a request to all the ladies and gentlemen, divas and deviants that listen to this show. I know a ton of you are parents, so if you've got any advice based on your personal experience and happily getting laid with a baby in the house, please share it on the website in the comments for episode 30. One other resource our new mom might want to try would be to tap into podcasts for new moms. Any show focused on the topic of motherhood or new motherhood should have at least an episode or two on the sexual challenges, and you might be able to find some suggestions based on a lot of experience if you look there. Up next, Adventurous Girl has quite a few questions, and I'm going to hit as many as I can in snippets here. First off, she writes, I have trouble giving oral sex. I will do it, but it's not my favorite thing. The reason being, my husband is rather large in girth and I have a hard time keeping my mouth open, and the joints of my jaw begin to hurt and my teeth start to drag. I switch back and forth between hand and mouth, but at one point I just finish with my hand. Sometimes if it's taking a really long time, he'll finish with his own hand while I suck his nipples. He loves that. Only a handful of times have I allowed him to come in my mouth. I don't know what it is, but he fills my mouth up so much with his dick, it's like there's no room left in there, or so it feels, and I literally gag. Seriously, I heave, and I'm afraid I will literally throw up right on top of him. I have successfully completed oral and swallowed with other smaller men, and I really did enjoy it with them. Any suggestions? Now, several of Adventurous Girl's questions regard working with her husband's girth. No matter what size your cock is, there are upsides and downsides. For guys with a lot of girth, oral and anal can be a real issue. Spoiler alert, the question after this one is about anal. As soon as a jaw starts to hurt, a blowjob goes downhill pretty quickly for everybody. The same goes for licking pussy, actually. It just tends to take a little longer getting there. There are several things that you can try to help you out here. To give your jaw a break, you can focus a lot more on using your hands. Make sure you keep his shaft nice and slippery, and use your tongue to deliver lube when necessary. But focus the efforts of your mouth on whatever you can do comfortably. Use your hands to pick up the slack, and you'll be a much happier cocksucker, and that means you'll automatically get better at it. Since the head of the cock is spongy, you can also keep your jaw more relaxed for more of the time if you're not trying to swallow the whole thing. Your issues on swallowing cum aren't uncommon to women playing with big dicks. Part of it is psychological. You're spending all your time with your jaw stretched to the breaking point and you feel like you're choking on a fucking baseball bat. When he's about to come, you can try pulling back exactly to the point where your teeth hit his crown to make room in your mouth. There's also what I like to call the tooth bump effect when you pull back to the crown, and for me, it's like putting a little zesty sauce on the old orgasm. This might take a little practice, but once you're confident and comfortable that there's plenty of room in your mouth, you'll feel prepared, and you'll stop worrying that jizz is going to end up shooting out your nose or something. Side note, I saw a porn clip this week of exactly that. All hail the intertubes. Next up, we have her question about anal. Adventurous Girl writes, Anal sex. I love playing back there with smaller toys and fingers. My husband really wants to get in there himself, and I tell him there's no way in hell it's going to happen. Since being pregnant with my kids, I developed hemorrhoids, and they just never go away. They are external, and although they don't usually bother me, maybe once or twice a year, they stick out and are constantly there. Given the size of my husband, I am so terrified of what might happen, because when they do hurt, they hurt really something awful. I was wondering if you've had any experience with anal sex with a woman who has hemorrhoids. Maybe your medical advisor can tell me what I may be risking to allow my husband in the door. Now, this is another common issue for thick dicks. While any woman has a point where something is just too big to fit comfortably in her pussy, at least the pussy is designed to shoot out a baby. Your ass, on the other hand, is not. For some people, it's obviously designed to have their head up it, but that's a completely separate issue. About half the adult population in the U.S. will deal with hemorrhoids at some point. For women, they're especially common after childbirth. The hemorrhoid is just a blood vessel with walls that are stretched too thin, making it swell. They can be caused and aggravated by a lot of things, including straining too hard while you're taking a dump, passing a child out your pussy, and unfortunately, sticking big things in your ass. If you've already got them, there's a good chance that anal can cause flare-ups or possibly new hemorrhoids altogether. Now, the next bit will have its own post under sexual health and sex resources on sexualdarkage.com, and our medical advisor has the following to say on the subject. External roids are no fun with a large caliber pole going in and out at any speed. Possible ways to deal. Stop anal sex altogether. Doubtful. 2. Lots and lots and lots of lube. Silicone-based lubes, however, are not FDA approved for internal use for extended intercourse, use of toys, or anal intercourse with hot, nasty roids. Mineral oil and Vaseline are very nice and slippery, but not recommended if you are using latex. They will melt latex like the shit wasn't even there. That's my personal ad-lib. Of course, it's always good to use condoms for anal intercourse for disease minimizing. Option 3, a spot of anal ease will help for the short term, but it really will numb the sensations for both partners. Option 4, surgery is a permanent solution to the problem, but it is painful and it puts the port out of action for its natural function and playtime for a very long time. Preventative care includes seeing your healthcare provider to obtain a combination cream. Enalaprem is one of them, that includes a steroid and a pain medication combined. Use it early on in a flare-up to minimize the discomfort and duration. If the sufferer is significantly under tall, too short for their weight, becoming taller or losing weight will help avoid the roid flare. Height-weight appropriateness is best for all health matters. If constipation is a problem, start drinking more fluids, water preferred, increase the roughage in your diet, and if still a problem, try a stool softener like OTC Dulcolax to ease the passage. Make sure that any product that you use will not cause any allergies in you or your partner. Now that's it for what our medical advisor has to say, and we'll also talk a little bit more about this item once Shara joins me later. If you're already having random flare-ups, there's a really good chance that anal with your husband could make the situation worse. Moving on, Adventurous Girl has a few questions on the nature of DS relationships. She writes, "Okay, I have a few other questions and comments more out of curiosity than anything else. Everything I know now about kinky stuff is what I've learned from listening to your show. So let me see if I have this straight. You are the dom, and Shara is your slave. However, she makes all the rules and then agrees to follow them, and you take really, really good care of her, sexually for sure. Now, is this just behind closed doors, like if you go out to supper, to a normal restaurant, or to the movies, does she wear the collar? And is she just the submissive for sexual purposes? And is there a difference for you between having sex and making love?" So Adventurous Girl packed a bunch of questions in there, and here goes. First, I'd like to say that Shara will get a very good laugh out of the thought that she makes all the rules. I bet I get at least one out of it. The synergy of the dom-sub relationship is that the submissive is required to set boundaries but doesn't get to make rules. Shara has a set of limits. Not so many in her case, to be honest, but she does have a few. From here to there and everywhere in between, I make all the rules. So basically, the submissive gets to set a range of outside parameters and then surrenders completely within those parameters. This creates a safe zone for the sub in which they can experience complete domination without engaging in any activities that are totally off limits for them, while still having zero control over what's actually happening to them from one moment to the next. Although I sometimes give Shara choices like letting her pick something out of the kitchen to get spanked with. She usually brings back shit like slotted giant stainless steel spoons, but that's because she's a pain slut. I'm still giving her the choice. As far as being open with the lifestyle, we're open with our friends, but we really can't be for business and such, so we keep it fairly low-key. Sometimes I'll have Shara wear her collar under a turtleneck or something when she's in public with or without me, and there's also a weighty bracelet that represents the collar when she can't wear the real one. Sometimes in public, I'll make her play with herself under the table in a restaurant, or maybe slip off a shoe and give a toe job if there's a tablecloth, and maybe, I guess the point is we play in public all the time, but nobody but us notices anything, because we're sneaky. Good times. She is submissive for much more than sexual purposes, but as I mentioned in episode 17, I personally cannot imagine actually controlling every aspect of another person's life. It's just not in me, even though I could do it if I wanted to. Shara would accept that. I just got too many things to do. So we do what most other kinky couples do. Keep the level of dominance and submission for our relationship in a range that we're both happy about. And we go on about our daily spankings. Getting around to the difference between having sex and making love. I think I need to be honest about my relationship with that particular term. Making love. I don't like it. I think it's disingenuous. As if love were a product of friction or something. Here you go, just stick this thing in that hole over there a bunch of times and some love will start pouring right out. Be careful, it might be a gusher. I certainly have a different experience when I'm sport fucking a casual playmate than I do when I'm fucking someone I love. But the term making love conjures these images of slow, sensitive, gentle type guys that, frankly, I've spent my entire adult life hearing women bitch about. Now, we tend to get emotionally attached to one extent or another to anyone we fuck on a regular basis. That being the case, I can't say the term making love is totally illegitimate in regards to sex. I just choose not to use it. So while the experience is different when you're fucking someone you love, in my opinion, if you're doing it right, you need to be in there to deliver a good, thorough fucking no matter whose address you're delivering it to. For the record, if I start going all slow and love-makey with Shara, she thinks I'm punishing her and begs me to get rough. True story. Next up, we got an interesting item that Deep Lockout posted on the website, wondering what I'd think about it. It's a post from a group on FetLife titled Safe Words Are Dangerous. This particular post was made by Ice Panther, but it was a repost of an older article. For those interested, there's a link in the show notes to the post on FetLife. First, I'll read the post in its entirety because it does a good job of making several points, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. So, from the top, Safe Words Are Dangerous. Okay, the title probably got your attention. I considered titling this rant Safe Words Considered Harmful, but only the aging geeks in the audience would get the joke. I did a brief survey not too long ago about safe words, with 2 questions to suck people in, and one that was the meat of the matter. Do you consider it inherently unsafe to play without a safe word? I was disappointed, but not the least bit surprised to find that most people really believe that safe words keep them safe, and that it's unsafe to play without one. I have just one thing to say about that. Bullshit. Over the last 10 or 15 years, I've watched safe words go from one of many useful tools to something treated with near religious reverence within the community. Like most things that are put up on this sort of pedestal, safe words are highly misunderstood. I'm going to say something that will shock some of you. A safe word does not keep you safe. Okay, repeat that with me. A safe word does not make me safe. If you believe otherwise, you are seriously confused. If you break your leg during a scene, calling a safe word does not magically heal it. A safe word won't stop the bleeding, undo the needle stick, make you stop crying, or get that creepy guy away from you. If your top doesn't respect your safe word, you're no safer than if you didn't have one. A safe word can be missed for all sorts of reasons. Noisy dungeons, misunderstanding on the top's part, and distraction among others. Oh yes, malice as well. If you can't call your safe word when you need to, then it's useless. We're pretty well wired to yell stop if we need something to stop, but aardvark just doesn't come naturally for a lot of us. If you're really in distress, you'll probably be falling back on instinct rather than rational thought, and you might not be able to call a safe word. Safe words will not keep the psycho from killing you. According to many of you, I'm an unsafe player. As a top, I tell bottoms that I'll respect a safe word if they want, but my preference is not to use them. As a bottom, I tell my top, even brand new ones, that I never use safe words. I'll now pause for people to gasp. Actually, my topping a new partner speech goes like this. I'll respect anything that sounds like a safe word until you tell me otherwise, and that includes no and stop. However, I would really prefer that you just use plain English with me. My bottoming speech is much simpler. I don't use safe words. Instead, I'll just tell you what's going on. Stop means stop, no means no, more means more. If you aren't sure, just ask. A few months ago, I had a scene go seriously south as a bottom. This is the first time that this has ever happened to me on something like 15 years of playing, and it was really frightening. I didn't even know what was wrong, just that something was really and seriously out of whack. When this happened, I couldn't have come up with a safe word if my life had depended on it. I was so far gone that I couldn't have figured out what the word was. I managed to tell my top, I'm not okay, and then for the next several minutes, all I could do was sob and shake my head yes or no. If I'd been relying on a safe word to stop the scene, I don't know what would have happened. I probably could have gotten the messages across, and my top was good enough that he almost certainly would have noticed my change in demeanor, but I'll never know for sure. Historically, safe words have evolved for one primary reason. They provide an unambiguous means of communicating stop in role-playing or resistance situations where the bottom wants to be able to call out no stop without actually meaning it. If you're playing in situations where the bottom wants to resist, then a safe word is nearly essential. If you're playing in situations where the bottom can't speak, such as when they're gagged, then a safe signal of some sort is likewise highly valuable. Safe words can also provide a security blanket for novice players, especially bottoms. It can be highly reassuring for a nervous beginner to know that all they have to do is say aardvark and everything will stop. Actually, I should say to believe that that's all they have to do, since there's no guarantee that it will actually work. Hell, a safe word doesn't even communicate what's wrong. It's just an emergency broadcast system beep. Let's circle back to the title. Do I really consider safe words to be inherently dangerous? No, of course not. They're a valuable tool in many BDSM situations, and I would never argue that they shouldn't exist. However, I do believe that safe words have a real risk, and that risk is a false sense of security. People in the scene these days really and truly believe that safe words keep them safe, or at least safer. If you believe too strongly in the protection of your safe word, you may neglect more important safety precautions. Safe words can also make a top feel like they have a license to be less observant. If the top believes the bottom will safe word if there is sufficient distress, they might overlook signals that they really should be paying attention to. It really bothers me that safe words have achieved a nearly religious reverence in the SM community these days. They aren't the be-all and end-all of communication or safety, and they shouldn't be used as such. I'm ranting, but I hope I've managed to help a few people think about the value of safe words and the ways that they are misunderstood and misused. So that was the original post from FetLife, and here are my thoughts. I think you'll find the perspectives expressed here will resonate with pretty much any experienced player. By and large, I agree with what this author said. In my mind, the primary benefit of a safe word exists in the dominant's desire not to hear it, if that makes sense. If not wanting to hear a safe word makes a dom pay closer attention to the condition of a sub, then it's accomplishing something valuable and meaningful. As proposed, if a safe word makes a dom feel like they can just go hog wild until somebody screams a safe word, then it's definitely doing way more harm than good. In short, hearing a safe word should never, ever be an expected or normal part of play, unless you're actively pushing limits to see how much of a given activity a submissive can take. Still, even in those situations, they're not usually going to be mixed with role-playing in which the sub is screaming stop without meaning stop. I believe I said in episode 17 that I, along with many, many dominants, consider a sub's use of a safe word to be a failure on my part. If I hear a safe word, I should have known there was something wrong before the submissive had to pull the emergency brake. And even when a safe word is in play, unless the situation involves heavy role play, I'm still going to stop if I hear stop. I share the author's preference for plain English and good communication over anything that's complicated, because if you're playing enthusiastically, you're going to find yourself in those noisy, chaotic environments from time to time. Once I know a submissive, the look on her face is more useful to me than anything she could say to let me know how she's doing. If I'm playing with someone I'm not real experienced with, I'm going to hope for that quieter environment, and I'm going to check in on her a whole lot more often. So I do believe that safe words are a very important tool, and I think they're critical for novices just to install that emergency stop button. By the same token, the more experienced you become, the less useful they become. Your skills should surpass any real need for them reasonably quickly, except in the few role-playing and resistance situations where you really can't play safely without them. And now I've got Shara joining me, even though she needs to come closer to the microphone.
I'm closer. How's that?
Come on, baby. We know you're not afraid of anything shaped like a microphone.
Oh, is that what it's shaped like? I was thinking of something else.
So, do you have any suggestions for our new mom?
I do. I think you covered everything extremely well. There's a couple things that I would add. I think that if there's an argument every time they talk about sex, that's going to become a problem. So I think that you have to do what you mentioned, talk about it, try not to have the anger between each other. So I think
right,
you
make
brought
it
up
a part of positive conversations,
right.
so that the conversations about negative things aren't the only way it's discussed.
Right, because if you get angry about it, all that's going to do is cause more friction and more space between them, and that's not a good thing, especially if you're married and you want the marriage to last. I would do a couple of things. One is if they have a family member that they trust or a friend in the area that they trust, see if they would take the baby, even if it's for a few hours, not overnight, because new moms hate to let the baby go overnight. Even if it's for a few hours, like I'm talking a good 6 hours of time, then have him take the baby over there, over to the friend's house. And when he comes home, has candles lit, some music going, and food, but nothing that you have to cook because that takes time. Make it relaxing for her as well.
Fuck your baby food. Finger paint each other with baby food. There we go.
Have you ever tasted baby food?
Well, the fruit stuff isn't terrible.
So you've tasted it?
Yeah, I've tasted baby food. I've fed babies. Everybody who's ever fed a baby has tasted baby food. You got to. You got to stick your... You're curious. You got to. I mean, maybe not the creamed peas and shit, but... If there's apple or, something that doesn't obviously sound horrible as a puree, I'll try it.
Anyway, I think it'd be very relaxing for them, and they could have some great hot sex, and she could get some attention paid to her. I like your idea about going into the bathroom and, the baby monitor thing. I wouldn't call it mommy time, though, because it's not time for her to be mommy or wife. It's time for her. So I call it me time.
That's how an old friend of mine used to refer to it. She'd say it's time for mommy time and literally go in and lock the bathroom door.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, if you're going to go into a room, a knock on a door when you're expecting to be undisturbed can be really, really aggravating. Mm-hmm. So you got to set it up. You say, hey, just don't knock on the door. Unless the house is fucking burning down for the next 30 minutes or 45 minutes, just leave me the fuck alone.
Right. So I call it me time for people. I think that even if you're single and you live at home, you need that me time. One of the other things that you brought up is him taking time even if it's every day that they each get 30 minutes. Although that's nice, I understand that a lot of times it's just not even possible.
Well, sure, maybe not every day, but it's something to strive for. Just because you can't do it every day doesn't mean it's not helpful. It doesn't mean you should not try at all.
Right. I would strive for every day, and then that way if you get twice a week even, it's a plug for yourself, and I think that that's a good thing. I think the only way that you're doomed is if you argue about it all the time with your husband or mate. I think that that's what's going to cause you to be doomed. I don't think that she's doomed. I think it's typical becoming a new mom, and I like your advice about podcasts for new moms. I think that that's a great thing. Maybe some of the moms out there or new dads have a link that they could send.
Yeah, and I also requested listener assistance.
I saw
if
that.
Any of them have any suggestions?
Yeah, so I think that would be great. And if I get some time, I'll see if I can find some for her, and I'll put them on our site.
All right, so moving on to Adventurous Girl. Now, the first one of Adventurous Girl's questions that I talked about was giving blowjobs to guys with really big dicks. So, Shara, would you happen to have any advice about giving blowjobs to guys with really big dicks?
Well, to be honest, you covered that one really well, too. The one suggestion... oh, boy. I know Bradley's just laughing right now about that.
Not just him. Not just him.
I think that one of the other things that might be helpful is to talk about it beforehand when he knows he's going to come, to back up a little bit and, tell him that she'd like to have the cum all over her face. Men like that. And as long as she gets
if a woman asks for it, she's going to get
it.
So that didn't even occur to me. Well, leave it to you to think about the facial as the solution to the problem.
It's not just a solution to the problem. It's sometimes
By the way, no bullshit. Jizz is good for your skin.
And that's
lots
what keeps
of fatty acids and proteins. Smooth things right out.
Not going to ask how you knew that. I'm sure it's all research, but
Well, feel my hand. See how smooth it is?
I think I'm going to start giving you the hand jobs. But anyway,
no, you know my policy on hand jobs. I mean, if it's going to be a hand, it might as well be my hand.
Yes, but thank you for that, by the way. Let me watch you come, because I never got to do that before.
Yeah, Well, I'd say every once in a while I managed to dig up a first time for you. I thought I had the bases pretty well covered, but
no, you didn't. So that was good. You're, pretty soon there's not going to be anything left. What are we going to do?
Redo stuff.
All right. Anyway,
always the replay.
Anyway, so I think that's kind of a hot thing myself, is to have cum on my face. So, but maybe it's because I like to keep my skin looking, good.
Oh, that must be the reason.
I'm sure.
Yes, that thing I just told you about 5 minutes ago that you didn't know before. Obviously, that's the reason.
So I think that if she knows that that's what he's going to do, it could, and she's okay with that, it would also change the pace a little for them, and that can, add another little bit of spice to the relationship.
All right, moving on. Adventurous Girl's next question. Taking it in the ass with hemorrhoids. What do you think about that?
Again, you covered it well, and I liked the research that you had our medical person put up there.
Our medical advisor. Yeah, he did. Actually, that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Big props to the medical advisor. I want to do it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten to email him, and I sent him an email yesterday right before I recorded the first portion of the show, and he got back to me in like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. That was awesome.
He is absolutely awesome. And so I think he covered it extremely well. And so there's really, I'm not very much.
So you're going to pass up an opportunity to talk about butt fucking?
Well, oh boy. You both covered it extremely well, Okay. Next. Oh.
All right, so next, we have Adventurous Girl's questions about DS relationships in general. She had some further questions. Obviously, she still had some questions left over after listening to the BDSM episodes. So what do you think about the misconception that she accidentally got that you make all the rules?
Oh, yeah. I wish.
So why don't we talk about how you get to make rules?
Yeah, I wish. Actually, that would be no fun if I got to make the rules. I guess.
Thank you for saying that. Actually, that was kind of a part of my point. And Shara, you've got limits, but let's be honest, you don't have many limits. By the way, a conversation that Shara and I were having yesterday about this episode, and I pretty much always knew this, but we talk about hard limits. Don't ever ask Shara to lick your asshole. We were just having a casual conversation, and the subject of rim jobs comes up as well as it will in polite conversation from time to time.
Usually not over dinner.
You should have seen the look on her face. It's like, who wants to lick somebody else's ass?
Okay, I know though that it's a thing for some people. It's definitely not one of my things. And
like anything else, some people like it, some people don't. But let there be no doubt. I say often that you don't have many limits, and I always just like to put my finger on one when I see it once in a while.
I was thinking about going to pull out our contract and making sure to add that back in there. That,
that was never in there.
I said adding it in there.
Oh, yeah, because after all this time, if I had an irresistible desire for a rim job, you wouldn't have heard about it before now.
That's correct. I wouldn't, but I want to thank you for, never needing that from me. So I'd be happy to find somebody that would, do that for you if that's what you want.
Yeah, so now, as far as the nature of the DS relationship stuff, is there anything else you want to say regarding the questions that Adventurous Girl was asking?
Well, it had to do with, and I don't know if it was from her, about the dom-sub relationships, and about making love. And
oh, yeah. Making love.
I have to say.
So what happens every time I try to give you a little bit of making love?
Yeah, I saw what you recorded. Yes, okay, true story. Okay, I'll go there. True story. But you have to understand the rest of that, okay? From having a contract with you, which, by the way, everybody has different levels of contracts. From major, you can't break this contract in any way, shape, or form, to it's there to understand that I'm the dominant, you're the submissive, so there's different levels. And when we did ours initially and we changed it, increased things or whatever, but
it's a living document.
Right. And
especially as your level of whorishness increased,
Well, that's because thank you. But I'm going to give you that credit because I became that way because of you. So it's all your fault.
You are welcome.
Thank you. But from that to the reading, JV wrote something. Oh, he made me write it, but he dictated it to me and I wrote it.
We were having a little behavior problem, so.
And I have to read that now every day.
Someone had to stay after class.
So that became something. Oh my gosh, I'll never get this out.
That's what she said.
So I have to read that every day when I get home. I have to read that, bring my collar to him for him to put the collar on, and that's respect for him. And it makes me hot. It makes me wet, extremely wet, to the point that sometimes I think I'm going to squirt. Like right now, I'm really wet just talking about it. And then, yes, and sometimes I do. Sometimes it makes me so wet, I squirt. And I'm proud of that because you know what? That to me is put my fingers up here and do the little quotation marks.
Air quotes.
The making love. That's hot to me. And that means more to me than.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. So I can say to the audience that making love for Shara is bringing me her collar and asking to be my property.
Well, different things. Like you'll say, get on your knees or lift your shirt up and I want to see your titties or whatever it might be.
Which is now, by the way, and I believe that really everyone in every relationship should have this kind of policy. I just demand to see Shara's tits whenever I feel like it, and she whips them out and I play with them. Mm-hmm. And when she feels like playing with my cock, she just reaches out and wags her fingers. She's like, I need to play with my cock now.
Well, it's not like you're ever going to have a problem with that.
Exactly.
I know you're not.
Of course I'm going to whip it out.
Now, sometimes when we're at the office, it's a little bit more difficult for me. And,
but you do it anyway.
Well, you're the master, and, And we did have a little bit of a behavior situation for me at the office, and you brought that up in your writings about the bracelet.
Yes.
That it's a little bit on the heavier side, but it's classy looking.
It's classy looking, but heavy enough for you to remember it's there.
Yeah, I definitely know that it's there, and so it's nice, and it reminds me all the time that I belong to him, and even at the office. So even though I am dominant in my own way at the office, it's not with you. It's we're partners, and so it just works.
All right. So, is there anything you would like to say on the comparison and contrast between having sex and making love? Because I think it's fair to say, and I can say this fairly for you, and I can also say it fairly for a great number of my past playmates. Love is best made when they're up against a wall with their hair getting pulled.
That's right. Just when I walk in that door, or when you come walking in, if you want to just throw those keys on the counter and you want to grab my hair and you want to put me over the sofa in my favorite position, you go right ahead.
Yeah, that's right. Love is not pulling the hair too hard. See, Oh, yeah, nipples. Headlights.
Yep, there. Anyway, so, but honestly, the things that you do for me, both at the office and here, I don't want to really use the word stalker, but, we've had some times that some people were...
Well, you better explain that, stalker.
No, not you. I meant some people that kind of,
Oh, yes, you've had borderline stalkers, yes.
But you've taken good care of, you've helped me, tell me how to handle it, or if you had to handle it, or whatever the case may be. But that, to me, shows me how much that you love me. That from there, and the things that you do at the office, and when I'm having a bad day, everything else waits. You console me, you always try to get me out of it fast and make me laugh. And, I could not ask for a better partner all the way around.
And that's
Seriously.
Also often accomplished by playing with their tits, for the record.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Getting a little mileage out of this thing today.
A lot of mileage, I think. But anyway, so that to me is more than, would you please fuck me slowly? Or, I'm sorry, make love to me nice and slow. I love the way that you fuck me. I love it, and I love the things that you consider important to take care of me. So, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. You can thank me again later.
Okay, I will.
All right, next we have the article from FetLife that was originally linked by DBlockout on the website about safe words. So you read that before we decided to put it on the show. You read my response. Is there anything else that you have to add? However, before I turn you loose, have you ever used a safe word with me?
No, never had.
I didn't think so.
I honestly,
because I was thinking when I was making my notes and I was recording this, I'm like, fuck, when was the last time I heard a safe word? I mean, like, really? It's been a long time. It's been like probably 15 years since I heard someone use a safe word in play with me. You'll hear them once in a while at the clubs, you'll hear them once in a while at parties, especially if people are playing together who don't have a great rapport, especially if it's casual play. But I don't think I have had a safe word directed at me in fuck of a long time.
I honestly don't think I've ever had to use a safe word. There was one that that scared me, that I was under his protection per se, but he scared me a few times. But I have to say, whenever we were out in play in public or anything like that, he was always very careful. There were just some things that sometimes scared me, but if I would have used a safe word, I don't think it would have mattered at that point. So I never actually had to use a safe word. There were just some times that I was a little bit nervous for my life.
Now, do you concur that they are still important for newbies?
Yes, I do, because I think it gives you a comfortable place, but I also think it's important, along with safe words, to have mentors, to have people that that know what your safe word is, that know where you're going. Those protection things for newbies in place all are safety features to protect that person. So yes, I think for newbies it's important, but I also think it's important to have a mentor. Go to munches. I've said that a lot. Go to munches, and if you don't have somebody in your area that you really know well, then start doing a lot of research. Just even on FetLife, for instance, if you're on FetLife and you go to the newbie section.
Yeah, there are a lot of groups, especially a lot of really targeted groups with some very knowledgeable people in them on FetLife on a wide variety of topics.
So I just think you just have to, don't rush into anything. You can watch them. If you see somebody that you really respect, watch other people, how they react with them. And if you see something out there that doesn't seem quite right about that person, in other words, if somebody's making a remark about, well, you're full of it or whatever, and it's more than one person, then you can usually kind of get the idea that that person probably doesn't know what they're talking about. But, I always recommend meeting somebody a few times at munches, get to know them a little bit. But even then, when you get behind closed doors and it's just you and that person.
Oh, yeah, sometimes it takes longer to spot the crazy. All right, so anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up the show?
Just some happy birthdays. We had Eleanor had hers yesterday, so happy birthday to her. And Raymond has his on the 20th. And then we have Raphael on the 25th. So I hope they're going to have a lot of sex on their birthday.
You're such a good little den mother.
You're making fun of me. Now, if I missed anybody, it's probably because they're not on my
list. Did I forget to say it was a whore's den?
You did.
Okay.
You forgot to say that. I always get in trouble with that bell. You know?
Well, it's not the bell getting you in trouble. And I really, at this point, I think you could probably just stop protesting, considering like positive listener comment number 1208 came in on the bell the other day. I mean,
you know, I can't believe
everyone loves the bell.
I cannot understand why it doesn't pierce somebody's ear that they, you know.
Because I have it the proper distance from the microphone now. It was only really bad the first time. And for the record, she thought she was getting out of it altogether the first time. She's like, oh, that's too loud. It's going to bother the listeners. Oh, look, the other side of my desk.
Okay. Are we doing an interview this weekend?
Yes, theoretically, we will be getting together with Cooper and Ginger again this coming weekend.
How exciting is that?
Swinging episode 2. Oh, that's quite exciting. That was
a lot of fun. It went so fast. I can't even.
Yeah.
I can't even believe how fast. Yes. So it was a lot of fun. They were great people.
Oh, and one thing I wanted to mention before we start heading out the door. I did a homework assignment. For the first time, I posted a homework assignment in the middle of the week before mentioning it on the show. But there is a homework assignment on the website. I got a link from a friend to a list of 10 habits of highly sexual people. And, of course, I read the list and...
where's the bell? Come on.
Unsurprised, like I'm blushing. Unsurprisingly, most or all of that list applies to me. But the homework assignment, if anyone wants to do it, just go to homework on the website, and it is to pick any one thing off of that list and focus on doing that for yourself, or focus on trying to be that way, or be more open in that particular way. Try to pick up some habits that will tend to make you a more highly sexual person.
Oh, gee, I might have peeked at that list.
Yeah, because you need it. I got to put down 4 layers of furniture condoms under your ass, and you need a list on how to be more sexual.
Well, no, I just was reading the list to see if I was highly sexual. Not that I doubted it for a second, but I thought I better look at the list, and I picked out a couple that, you know, oh gosh, I'm going to need your help on.
All right, anything else?
Yes, I want to say congratulations to you. You sold 2 short stories and a novel to Ravenous Romance.
Oh, thank you very much.
And do you want to tell me what the title ended up being on the novel?
Oh, yes. Well, often working titles are not the final titles of really anything in the world. So I had this crappy working title that I had on this book, and I ended up, my editor and I went back and forth with probably 40 or 50 potential titles, and I connect with my editor really well. And, you know, so we were both just kind of saying, okay, well, let's just throw stuff at the wall until somebody sees something and it's like, oh, yeah, that's the one. The book is titled Lady of the Drake.
Oh, I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes, it is turning out real well. And as you know, I have a passion for fantasy fiction. I
love the sex scenes.
This is high order fantasy fiction, and I am having a lot of fun with it.
So am I. I love it when you're tired and you go to bed at night and I get to go read the sex scenes. I love it.
No, notice she probably doesn't bother reading the rest of it.
Oh, no, I do. I'm sorry.
You should see your face. I swears. I read more than the porn.
I just happen to have one of my favorites that you bought me, dildos, right there. The hard part is I always get caught because I forget to hurry up and go wash it and clean it and put it away because I'm exhausted after playing with it for so long, you know, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I have to say, Shelby and we have to have like this agreement not to like come up when I'm reading that part and I've got the dildo going because she likes to come up and cuddle while I'm at the keyboard.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I know. But we have to have a conversation and say, you know, if there's some way we could work that part out. Because
well, I'll let you work that out with the cat.
I was thinking maybe just put her in your bedroom with you for. But anyway, congratulations! I'm really happy for you. You deserve
thanks,
it.
baby.
You're a great writer, and I'm really happy to see one more aspect. I'm just glad to see that you can do podcasts and you can do the writing and still find a lot of time to keep me happy. So thank you.
Well, it is a balancing act, but
you're good at it.
Somehow I do make do.
You do. I'm never, you know, and I have to say, if I were at a moment that I wasn't feeling as though I was getting enough time with you, if I said something to you, you make time for me. So I want to say thank you. And I'm just glad that you're able to do all that because it's who you are.
Well, you're welcome, baby. I do my best.
Love you.
Love you too.
Congrats.
Dirty whore.
Okay, we have to go now. Thank you, everybody.
So, it's that time again. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you're having as much fun as we are. As always, please feel free to send questions, comments, topic requests, or just generally join in on the sex-positive conversation by posting anonymously on sexualdarkage.com, emailing jvaltheros@gmail.com, or finding Shara and I on Facebook, Twitter, or FetLife, including the brand new Ending the Sexual Dark Age group on FetLife. Thanks to those of you who've joined already. Group's starting to fill up just a little bit, and hopefully it'll turn into a fun community as time goes on. And good ratings and reviews on iTunes are always appreciated. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be getting back together with Cooper and Ginger to continue our conversation on ethical non-monogamy. That's like one of my favorite new terms. And until then, this be me, JV Altheros, reminding you that sex is one of the greatest things in life, and there is always room for better.